My name is Stephen Smallsalmon, and in Indian you say Stephen ʷusm. I'm a full-blood Ponderay. I am 69 years old. I've been living here all my life, and I learned my language when I was born. I lived through that. And Pete Beaverhead and Miss Smallsalmon, Mary Smallsalmon. Mary is my mom, Mitch is my dad, and Pete Beaverhead was my uncle. And they were a great life for me. And Quinta Tuipe, and they were my teachers, my backbone. They helped me out. And I belonged to the Elder Society down there, St. Ignatius. We meet once a month. And the thing is, the language is really important to me. I went to a lot of great schools away, boarding schools. But I still hang on to that, whatever I got, Indian ways, language, medicine ways. And I remember when I went to school, people would talk about how they took the language away from them and their medicine bundles and stuff like that. But me, I stuck with it. And when I come back from school, I lived with my mother when I was a very young person, after I was 20. And the thing is, with that, we talked Indian. All the time we talked Indian. Then my uncle lived only about a quarter mile away from me, Pete Beaverhead. Then I used to go up there and we'd visit. And he had so many stories he'd tell me. And he always had record players, He'd put on an Indian record, and I had to listen to the Indian record before I got to talk to him, and drink coffee and have a donut or something. But the thing was, he was always there for me, and he couldn't talk English, I had to talk to Indian, and talk to Indian all the time. And that Indian is really such a beautiful talk, it's a language. And you could learn more when you talk Indian instead of English, It makes, maybe because I'm Indian, that's why. But to me, it's really important. Then when I started working in schools, that was about 16 years ago, teaching language, making outfits, making rings, belts. I started learning all that trade, and I started working in schools. But later on, I started working in schools of the language. But you only get about half an hour to 45 minutes a day. And that was not enough time, To me, it wasn't. Then when ʷusm opened up here, I asked the Chaney if I could work here, and he said, sure. I told him I could talk the language really good, But anyway, coming back to the language, I had to practice again with my language. And there's many, many things that start popping in my head. Every morning I come to school here, I'm driving to school, that thing would pop up in my head in Indian language. And I'd try to hold on to it until I got to school. Sometimes I would lose it, And things like that, it's really important because our medicine ways, Long time ago, Indian people, my dad and my mom and my uncle, they were all medicine people, And my grandfather, my grandma, they were all medicine people, And people don't like to talk about it, but me, I'm an elder, I could say anything, And the blue jay, we lost that year. And being a medicine man, it takes a role, of the language, of medicine, of a lot of things, It's just the thing that when you go up in the mountains, there's medicine up there. There's kids here, if they could learn the language, to me, in my heart, I'm talking about myself, and if they could learn the language, and maybe we'll go back up into the mountains and learn all these, You go in the sweat lodge, then when you go in there, you'll know what you're asking for, what you're doing. when you go inside and pray, you know, and doing all these things, you know, praying and learning the language. To me, it's really, really important because we started losing our language 20, 30 years ago, you know. And I noticed it really dropped, you know. To me, I thought these elders, when I was a young person, I thought these elders would be with us at all times, you know. Our language would be here, our medicine ways would be here, everything. One day I just woke up, it's all gone, you know. And I said, what happened, you know? What happened to our country, you know? Maybe if we learn with Indian children, especially with our young people, even the 30, 40, 50-year-old, you know, they got to understand, you know. If you're walking down the street and somebody says, are you Indian, you know? And you talk Salish, you know, you talk Indian, say, sure, I'm Salish, you know. And you start talking it and you know your ways, you know. Today, you know, I know I'd have arguments on this, you know. There's a lot of people get mad at me or whatever, and like I say, I'm an elder, you know. I could say what I want to say, and I learned that from my elders, you know. If they want to argue with me, go back to the other elders, you know, and argue with them, you know, where it come from, you know, from the roots, you know. They call it the roots and it builds, you know. Like my uncle always used to say, you know, when I'm gone, I hope you're smart enough to sit where I'm sitting, you know. You follow my footsteps, you know. And that's what is gone today, you know. Young people, when they got kids, you got to follow their footsteps, you know. Their mother, their dad, their grandfathers, they always say, this is how I'm going to raise you, and you follow my footsteps. When you follow my footsteps, when I'm gone, then you have your kids to follow their footsteps. It just goes on and on and on. And if we don't know it, who's going to teach us, you know? Then nobody's going to teach us, so we better start learning right now, you know. In ʷusm, we got not quite 40 now. Last year we had 40. The kids, I got little ones down there, you know. I like to work with the 3, 4, and 5 years old because they soak it in, and when I say something, I like draw pictures on the wall. I think that they understand, you know. You draw a picture, and they look at it, and you say, Skemsy, eh? They know it, you know, they say it, you know. And they're writing, you know. Once you start, I'm not against writing now, I'm not, but if you know how to write, you could read it, but could you explain that to me, you know? There's a difference here. I don't know how to write, maybe that's why I always tell my boss, well, I don't know how to write, but I could really talk good Indian, you know. Then to him, I watch him, and he could read it, or anybody could read it. But do they know what they're talking about, you know? There's a lot of difference there, you know. And it's good to write. I mean, people look at it, and to me, when I look at a word in ʷusm, you know, and I could read that, you know, in ʷusm, but the other words I can't read, you know. But the thing is on that, I should learn, you know. But I'm old, like I say, I'm 69 years old. I argue with that, I tell people, well, I'm old, you know. Oh, you're not that old, you know. I could feel it in my bones, you know. So anyway, that's my story, and